Hello and welcome to the Horror Bois Podcast. I'm Austin.
I'm Chris.
I'm Isaiah.
And this is the A podcast on the internet.
It is
we are talking
the
about
horror podcast
that we
on the
do,
internet.
but
Yeah.
we're not going to be doing it ever again on the Downtown Kentucky channel. That's
True.
right, we're switching it over to the Horror Bois channel. You know, we've never uploaded a video there, so you can't go to a cool link for it, but you can go to the link in the description. So go ahead over there, subscribe. We're going to start giving you more content in the coming weeks to months. It'll be cool. But let's jump right into this. We talk about movies here. It's a movie review. If you are a first-time listener, you don't know what we do. We talk about horror movies. I know it's crazy. And we are going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master.
Woo.
So let's talk about it. We open on what at first I thought were going to be, Friday the 13th-esque nothing credits, because we opened for a little bit longer than I expected on just text over black. But it did start giving us a little scene with the credits starting. We have a little girl who is doing some street art. She's tagging up the street with chalk. She's drawing a house. Which house? That's right, it's the Elm Street house, because that matters, right? I guess. I mean, we decided that's the thing. I feel like that wasn't a thing in the first two movies, just they happened to be there. And now it's the house is what matters.
Yeah, we had the sculpture in the last one, and now
we have we have a cool little drawing literally in front of the house in this dream. So we go right into it. We have new Kristen, because Patricia Arquette could not return. So we have new Kristen, still same character, new actress, not quite as good, but not too bad.
Oh.
I
thought that she was much better than Patricia Arquette.
I get it. I mean, Patricia Arquette was kind of awkward in that movie, but it just felt wrong. It didn't feel like the right character. I don't know, but she wasn't bad. She just wasn't. I feel like the little peak, not peak, but like my thoughts in general about the actors in this movie is none of them were bad, but man, after coming off of Dream Warriors, where the cast was like the shining point in this movie, the cast in this movie is a little disappointing. Not too bad. It's like they're fine, but
I think for me, the acting was my biggest gripe in the movie.
it's fair.
Really?
Aside from the convenient plot points, which we'll get to.
We'll get to those, and there's actually probably a reason to why it happened that I'll also discuss when we get to that. But first,
Why convenient plot points, or why the piss poor acting?
the piss poor script.
Okay, cool.
I've been immersed in horror movie cheese for so long that I don't even recognize bad acting. Because
To be
Chris is like,
fair-
yeah, the acting's bad. I'm like, yeah, I guess it was kind of bad. I didn't even,
The thing is, the acting was bad, but it's still like a million times better than 99% of the Friday the 13th acting, which is what we just came off of. 'Cause
absolutely.
no one
Yeah.
could act in that series. There was like one or two actors in 10 movies.
Yeah.
And one of them
This
was Kane
podcast has
Hodder.
built up my
So,
tolerance. Dude.
but yeah, so let's get back to the movie though. We got new Kristen. She's walking up and she's talking to the little girl, and it starts to rain though. So the little and then we cut to some little kids. They're singing the song, the classic, 1, 2, we're coming
Freddy's
for
coming
you
for
song.
you.
They're all in white. They're doing jump rope. Since the last movie, they have included a boy, which, that's cool. Inclusivity. It used to just be little girls. Now the boys are allowed to play jump rope, and, I respect that.
Boys are allowed to be murdered by Freddy, presumably.
I mean, I guess.
This is what those kids are.
Or they're
allowed to be creepy horror movie kids.
Or they're a representation of God, which we'll get to as a possible theme at the end of this movie with some of the stuff I heard from one of the creators.
Okay, I'm excited to get to that. All right.
Yeah, we'll get to that. All
right.
But yeah, so let's get little kids are singing the song. Kristen, she goes into the Elm Street house, and she's trapped in it. She tries to leave out the door, and she's right back in it because it's Dream, baby. And she's in the house, and she's spooked by a tree. She thought it was Freddy's glove, but nah, it's just a tree. Now she went downstairs, and she's in the boiler room, and it's filled with chains because there's a lot of chains in this boiler room.
He gets scared by a tree and then gets like Power Ranger blasted by the wind down into the boiler room.
You're right. She does
and it is hilarious.
There is a giant explosion from the window.
Yeah,
And a great pratfall.
Yeah. But
And
she's in the boiler room now, and there's a lot of chains. It really caught me off guard because there's never been like chains hanging in the other boiler rooms, but this one was like nothing but chains hanging in this boiler room. Which
I think there's meaning to it.
Yes, chainy. It has to do with the bondage of society, and I have no idea. No, I don't think so.
Curious. Okay.
I mean, it might. Here's the thing: it might, or it might have just looked cool. And knowing a lot of times in horror movies, it's probably just it looked cool, and then people added some extra meaning to it later, like, you know. But yeah,
it's the late '80s, and chains are cool.
Chains are in.
Dangly chains.
Chains and black leather jackets.
Well, later we have the character Alice in this, and this is Alice in Chains. This is so.
We are the men in the box.
Yes.
We're piecing it all together.
Yes. But yeah, so she, while she's there, she's scared now because she's in a boiler room, and she's Kristen. Remember, she was in the last movie. Can't you tell? She said her name, so you would know it's Kristen, because it's not. You know?
Definitely not for Arquette.
So she calls out for, Kincaid and Joey, who did come back. So we have Kincaid and Joey.
Same actors, yeah.
Same actors are back. We have them both come into the nightmare. First Kincaid, then Joey. But they both show up pretty quickly. Kincaid's still his, fun, sassy, quippy self. Joey, he's in a dream, so he's talking up a storm. Because that's his dream power.
He talks in real life in this movie,
Does he?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like rehabilitated, man.
I guess, I guess, he's, he beat that, Freddy. So, he's good.
Yeah, he's not a mute anymore, I guess.
Good for him. But yes, they're there now, and they're telling her, why'd you do this? Stop bringing us here. He's dead. What's wrong with you? Look, it's cold. Obviously, he's not even here. And she's like,
oh yes, yeah.
You're right, it is. But then, out of nowhere comes a dog. Not Freddy. You thought it was gonna be Freddy jumping out? No, it's a dog. A dog bites her, which is Kincaid's dog. We do see him in Kincaid's room earlier, and when we have the shot of her bringing Kincaid into the dream world. And the dog, bites her. I don't know if it's here or later, but we do find out the dog's name is Jason, which I feel like has to be, an homage to Jason. I feel like, I could be wrong. It could have just been a coincidence, but that's a pretty big coincidence to have a slasher movie with a character named Jason in it.
It's not a very dogly name.
It's a connected universe. So
but it wasn't at this point. So this was just paying homage.
Because this is... it's when Jason could possess bodies, and then he possessed a dog so that he could...
The dog ate his heart.
Entity that is Jason.
Yeah.
I forgot about that annoyingly horrible movie.
But Creighton Duke.
So the dog, he bites the crap out of her arm, and they all wake up, and her arm is bloody, and so is the dog's Jason's mouth. So that did actually happen. So which Freddy's not there yet, but somehow that still does. I thought Freddy's what makes the dreams have the power to hurt you in real life, but
nah, it's
just the dream world itself hurts you.
It's Kristen.
Can't hurt you. Oh, okay, it's Kristen.
I mean, we are meant to take that as evidence that Freddy is back.
I think it's the entity. I think it's to show us that the powers of Freddy are still out there, because he's not back yet. Because we're gonna get to when he comes back. Also, I have some stuff to say.
That implies that Kristen pulled the dog into her own dream as well?
I guess. Or maybe the dog just happened to be there. He jumped in the hole when he saw his master go through, and we're finding out it's actually a temporal portal that is open for a short period of time. Who knows? Maybe we're overanalyzing it, and just dog shows up, bites, accept, move on. And that's what we're supposed to do. And you know what? Fair. Now Kristen, she's driving herself to Rick and Alice's house to pick them up for school, and their dad is just crap. I hate him at this point. He gets better. I will say, for once in a horror movie, we have a redemption arc for a parent, which is a little weird. I
don't even know if you can call it that, but it's more of a sympathy arc. I
would call it a redemption arc only because, and I see what you're saying. It's not a good redemption arc because we only see him twice. Once, three times. Twice is really bad, and then once is now he's like a caring father, and you're like, okay, he's caring now. But we'll get to him being caring when it happens, because right now he's just being a jerk. Yeah. Complaining, asking his daughter if she's going out in that outfit when she's dressed like a nun,
covered.
she's
past the knees skirt. Yeah.
with a full cardigan over it. Like,
yeah.
She's not showing any skin. Like, why is her dad being such a jerk?
You gonna show those boys the back of your calves?
You're not wearing your face mask? I don't want them seeing my daughter's face like some sloot.
Where's your hijab?
Yeah. But you know, her brother, who is introduced in the scene, Rick, he doesn't want to even deal with his dad, so he's sneaking out his own window so he doesn't have to deal with him. But then he still does. His dad sees them, so he still has this, like... Yeah. We find out that Rick is kind of that fun-loving, quippy kind of character, because he gets up in his dad's face and kisses him. And has some sort of snarky line. That was that. That was our introduction to Rick.
He's a little zany.
Yeah, I don't like Rick. He gets worse, too. But he has one of the worst, probably, acting moments in the whole movie. Well, two of the worst acting moments in the movie. We'll get to both of them.
Baby!
We'll get to that, Chris. We'll get to that. Don't jump the gun. Now we're back. Now we're at school. And we meet Deb, who is... It's said a couple times that she likes to work out. That's her whole character, really.
You would never guess.
Yeah, she doesn't really...
Boy, does she.
Like, they don't show you, like, her being a character who likes to work out. They tell you a couple times so they can do her kill scene later.
Literally a couple times.
Yeah. It's literally twice. I think the first one is in this scene. It might be later, though. And we also meet Dan Jordan, who in my notes I refer to him as Dan Jordan for the rest of the time, because for some reason when we were introduced to his character, they give us a full name like it matters. So my brain went, I'm going to remember his full name, and it is for the rest of my notes I refer to him as Dan Jordan, even though the characters start referring to him as Dan once he gets more involved in the story. But for me, he will always be Dan Jordan because they felt the need to give his full name introduction.
You've explained your brain before.
Yeah, my brain does this, and but I still stand by it. It was stupid to not just say, "Oh yeah, that's Dan." They go, "Oh, that's Dan Jordan." Like that name's supposed to mean anything to us.
That's first name.
So you have
some significance.
Yeah, there's no significance here. He's just there, and he just kind of slowly gets more important to the story when they decide he needs to be.
Well, he's the tall, attractive male.
Who, I believe this is the first time where we have Alice daydreaming about how she wants to ask him out, but she doesn't, because we find out she daydreams twice. It happens twice.
It's a vivid inner life.
Yeah, it happens twice, though. It seems like something that would be important. It's not like something that, like, becomes maybe 3 times, technically. But none of them really ever matter. You would think in a movie like this, all about a character that enters dreams, the girl who daydreams would be like a very important moment where he can get her whenever. No, he doesn't. He doesn't and he can't. I guess. I mean, I guess maybe once he teases her, like that scene we were talking about with Rick's acting. I guess that was supposed to be Freddy. Which we'll get to that scene when it happens, but like that's the most payoff we'd get to her daydreaming.
Funeral?
Yeah. Which we'll get to that when we get to that, but like I'm just want to point out, this is the first time we see her daydreaming, and they make it feel like it's going to be an important thing, especially when you think, character who enters dreams. It's not. It does not matter. It is just a character trait she happens to have. Not like the other character traits where they just tell you them so they can use them. This is it's just here. It's worse somehow.
Well, it leads you on. Yeah. It leads you on, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a cool plot device that they use, and then they don't do anything with it.
Unless
salvage it.
And we'll get to it when we get to it, but I guess actually I just thought of a theory on maybe it does come into one moment later for her, but we'll get to that. I don't want to jump too far ahead because we do have to stick to our format. You know, we are professionals. Gosh darn it. Nice. We are the #1 podcast on the Horror Bois channel.
Dude, after being the #1 horror podcast on Downtown.
Yeah. I would argue with the numbers we've pulled on that channel, we were just the #1 podcast on that channel. So,
dude.
And guess what? That show's getting canceled. I mean, it's unrelated, but...
Well, you know, it's just moving networks.
No, not that one. That one's getting canceled. The other one.
Oh, yeah.
The Downtown. Yeah. But that's not the point. Let's get back to this podcast.
Oh, yeah. We're professionals.
We're professionals, guys.
Right.
Now, Sheila shows up. She's on a cool moped. She's a cool nerd.
She's a nerd.
It's not meant to be cool.
Asthma.
Yeah, but it comes across as cool, and she kind of comes across as like the cooler nerd. Like I know it's not supposed to be, but she's not as lame as some nerd characters.
Well, yeah, she rides in on this sweet Vespa, and I think that's pretty cool. And then they feel, oh right, it's got to be uncool, so they just throw in like a backfire, like, oh, It's supposed to be crappy.
She also has asthma. That actually does come into play later. But also,
she and her bike have asthma. Yeah.
Like a lot of things in this movie, we have to mention it once so it can be important later. It's not actually a character trait that matters. We're just going to say it once so we can use it later.
Also, I apologize. I said her car's sick. Her Vespa is sick.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Which, that is a reference to a previous episode if you are first tuning in, and
bizarre line.
Yeah, and our typical go-to joke isn't in this movie at all. So
it's a prop to this movie.
Yeah. I mean, there is still gratuitous nudity, but there is no harmonica playing time. Wink, wink. Watch the old episodes if you want to know what that means. I think 2 episodes ago I straight up spelled it out in case if you don't want to go back to way back.
Ruined the magic. I'm sorry.
I did ruin the magic. I'm sorry. But yeah, so Sheila's here, and she's Sheila, and her and Deb are kind of friends. I don't know why Deb is in this friend group. I really realize it later. She is just mean to all of them.
She's the cool hot girl.
Yeah,
but why is the cool hot girl hanging out with the former psycho, the nerd, and the weird, quiet, shy girl? Those 3 I could see being friends in real life. She would not normally be their friend, but for some reason, she just hangs out with them the whole time. I guess she's supposed to be, a rebel punk-looking kind of in the way she's dressed, so maybe that's why she's an outcast, I guess. But
she works out and she's hot.
Yeah, and she also hates bugs, because there's a bug on her chip. That'll come up. I wonder if that bug's going to matter again. Well, it will, because like most things in this movie, if they say it once, it matters. Unless it's the girl with the daydreaming that seems like it'd be a really cool thing, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, if they mention something once in passing, it will be important later.
See, that's the thing, is they didn't mention that in passing. They showed it and no one else acknowledged it. That's why it couldn't be important to the story.
Oh, the daydreaming? Or the
daydreaming. They just show us that a couple times, but don't acknowledge it. No one else acknowledges it, so that's why it can't be her character trait.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we cut to inside, and
you have to mention it.
What?
You have to mention it.
What?
For it to become canon, you have to mention it. A character has to say it out loud.
Ooh, yeah, no, you're right, because the only other one that ends up mattering, he does say to his sister. So yeah, you're right. Kincaid and Joey, they hang out. They show up, talk to Kristen a little bit in the school, and they're telling her to stop going into the dream. Like, stop this. Why do you keep doing this? There's no point. Stop worrying about this. Please stop pulling us into your crap. You're having nothing nightmares and you're pulling us in. Stop it. Which, you know what? Fair. At this point of the story, fair. And then Rick walks up. They have a little conversation. Talks about how he thinks they're weirdos, which is those
guys are spooky.
Yeah, which is kind of a mean thing to say when they're her friends from the mental institute that she also went to. So it's a little weird and not quite caring about her and what she's been through. But hey, and then we have a really weird, literally nothing moment that looks cool but means nothing when they walk past some lockers that have a glowing scratch on it.
Yeah.
Does Freddy ever come out of a locker?
No.
Nope.
Is that ever referenced again? Do any of the characters notice it? Nope.
No.
It's just there.
Just there. And it looks neat.
Now
it just feels like
right along.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just forced. It's just there to look cool. It is literally so stupid and forced. It's not. It's so pointless. Speaking of pointless, we cut to Alice doing dishes. For a couple shots, we cut back and forth to her doing dishes while Rick is showing off his cool ninja. Not Rick. Is it Rick? Yeah, Rick shows off his cool ninja skills in a montage.
In his dad's garage.
Yeah, in his dad's garage. He's got he's just doing karate / kung fu / non-actual existing martial art the way he is doing it.
Yeah, non-specific martial arts while wearing
the Karate Kid.
Yeah, a Karate Kid headband with a Japanese flag in the back.
I think it's specifically the later scene that involves the karate or the ninja, his fight. But he said that he actually did a lot of he did 2 or 3 weeks of training trying to learn some karate, and then he got to the thing and they just wanted big roundhouse style punches, and he's like, all right, cool. So the actor actually did try to learn like actual technique, and they're like, "No, we don't want that. No,
spin.
You don't do that.
Spin.
Yeah, do a cool spin kick. Okay.
Roundhouse kick.
Yeah. But yeah. And then Mr. Johnson, he comes home and he's a jerk again. He's just being a jerk. He walks up to his kid, his son. You know, when he comes home, his son's just looking at him. He's like, "Oh, you expect something?" The poor son just like sulks down. I guess he wanted love or an affection or something from his dad, but that can't happen.
Yeah, that was interesting because, like, with the whole sarcastic kiss on his dad's face at the beginning, that kind of set him up as like, more of a teen rebel. And then we see like, is he the sibling that tries to smooth things over, and that is kind of what is revealed.
Yeah.
In the family scene here, he's not like trying to jab at his dad. He's trying to kind of, bring some levity into the house, and his dad's just a huge downer.
Yeah. And he's not done being a jerk, because when he comes home and he's like, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we tried to wait for you for dinner, but you took too long." So his daughter brings him over a salad. And he's like, "Oh, what's this rabbit food? You think this vegetation's a meal after I worked for 10 hours?" And then she just lays it into him and tells him what's on her mind. Just kidding. That's the second of like 3 confirmed daydreams where they literally don't mean anything. So yeah, she didn't actually tell him that. She just stands there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Now we cut to Kincaid, and well, he gets scared by his dog Jason. Then he goes to sleep. And he wakes up in a trunk. And then he gets out of the trunk, and they're in the scrapyard from the last movie. And what's that? Oh, his little dog Jason's got to go for a little pee. And he just straight up pisses fire, which somehow brings Freddy back. Because reasons.
Because we need this to happen for a movie to exist.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's really no justification for dog pissing fire brings Freddy back that makes it like good, compelling, entertainment. I will say it does lead, which like a couple other moments. There's another moment in this movie that definitely I would also argue is it's insultingly how bad we got there, but then it transitions into a really cool scene. The scene of Freddy coming back to life is really dope. Like the way like his bones just come back together. That's not that cool. But then his like muscles and organs and like start growing on top of him, and like it's like a reverse melt effect. Like, it looks really cool. And so Freddy's back because it's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. We had to bring him back. I mean.
Yeah.
Dude, Jason is kind of a villain in this
dog,
movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's an unsuspecting villain, but like
he bit Kristen and also brought Freddy back to life. I'd say definitely villain.
That's his only role is to do those.
Well, see, it's not said in the movie, but it's obvious that we're supposed to imply that he's a hellhound, right? No, maybe. I mean, maybe that was a thing. Actually,
is that a film theory that exists?
The director is like Swedish, and he was very much like, well, see, it had to do with the animal nature of the animal peeing and bringing another animal back to. It was weird, and it was like, okay, buddy, sure thing.
In Sweden, we pee on our ancestors to bring them back to life.
I'm not gonna throw in some weird, unfound racist jokes from. Whoa, Chris, that was
against the Swedes.
Yeah,
no, it's not racist. You just said.
I choose to stay impartial, like the Swedes. That's the Swiss. Ooh, darn. So they're the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All the Hurgen Smirgen languages over there.
Yeah. Yeah, let's move on before we're canceled.
Sorry.
It's Freddy's back. And he says that he's not dead, and he should have been buried because he wasn't dead. And so then the cars start falling around, and he's kind of looks for Kincaid. First, he looks for Kincaid, runs away. He looks for him for a little while. Sorry, I jumped a little bit. Sorry. He looks for Kincaid a little while. He can't find him, and then Kincaid he pushes a car on top of him, crushing him, and he then gives a yow, followed by a. And you're like, okay, that's a weird choice for after you killed a guy. Then he doubles down with a second, yeah! You're like, oh, okay, all right, Kincaid. We're not just gonna, like, insult him like before, which he does. He then calls him like, an MFer. But like, he starts with like, yeah! And you're like, Okay. It's a yeah. It was a questionable choice.
Pretty cool.
But of course that doesn't take down. But of course that doesn't take down Freddy. So Freddy starts making all the cars fall around him, and he traps them in this like maze of cars, and like we kind of go further and further out of the shot in this really cool shot where we like see like practically a world of cars. He's trapped in
planet.
Now. Yeah. But yeah, now then we cut back immediately, and Freddy's got him, and he just kind of stabs him. And while he's like stabbing him, Kincaid says, tells Freddy to go to hell, or I'll see you in hell. He says, I'll see you in hell. And Freddy says, tell him I sent you, and sends him off. And, and what a surprise. It's in a total, Friday the 13th, not Nightmare on Elm Street, because 3 did a really good job with Nancy. We're back to that classic horror trope of, we brought back a character, aren't you happy? Okay, they're dead. Because this is about 20 minutes into the movie, and Kincaid's dead. And don't worry, we're not done killing off characters you care about, because we're cutting straight to Joey's room.
That's right, baby.
We go to Joey
watching
now.
MTV.
Yeah, and he's watching MTV, glancing over at his swimsuit model poster. He nods off a little bit to MTV, glances back, and he's like, his bed starts freaking out. He opens it, and what's that under the water? Which, by the way, his bed he was on a water bed, and now the water bed is completely translucent, and there's a girl, a naked woman, inside his water bed, and it's the girl from his poster. His poster.
Yeah, he looks back, is like.
Yeah,
like the posters.
That's Joey's thing. Joey really likes naked women. That is Joey's weakness. Which, you know what, I respect it.
I can understand.
Yeah. So Joey he's looking down at her, and he wants to. He's like I think it seems like he's trying to like figure out maybe how to like get her out of there, because
how do I get in there?
How do I get in there? But before he has a chance, she falls deeper into the water. He can't see her, and then boom, Freddy's here, and he cuts open the thing, grabs Joey. He gives his first like real quip of the movie, which is that's what I call a wet dream.
How's this for a wet dream?
Yeah, how's this for a wet dream?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I will say, we talked about this in the last movie. You didn't like the way they took Freddy, and I get it. I don't agree, but I understand it. I feel like this movie immediately went, well, you guys liked the quips of the last movie that were kind of clever. What if we just did a lot of them, sometimes 2 to 3 per kill scene, and
what
some
if
of them
was
land?
All that he did?
Yeah. And it's like, all right.
Quips and murder.
Cool.
Hold on. Are y'all telling me y'all have cooled on the quips? You don't like the quips anymore?
I don't like them in this movie. I do really like them in the last movie. I think the last movie was really well done. I think the last movie was exactly what I want from Freddy. There's still a little bit of scariness to him, but he is getting sillier and funnier and more fun to watch. This movie immediately went, what if we made it worse? And from what I understand, it's only just the beginning. It's
what I understand.
It's going to get even worse.
The reports you're receiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, he feels like the Riddler, and he's just like here to make funny jokes while he murders people.
Yeah. So
riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah. So he struggles with Joey in the water for a little bit, and then he goes to like stab him in the water, but right before he stabs him, Joey yells out for Kristen's help. Before he gets stabbed, and he gets another, which kind of lame, another just stabbing, but this one is kind of had a cool like visualness to it of the blood in the water. Like, it was well done.
Yeah, billowing out.
Yeah, it was cool, but it just like, that's kind of lame. 2 just plain stabs. Not really. I mean, this one he did, yes, use the waterbed to set up the kill, but then the kill itself was just stab you, and you're like, all right, okay, Freddy,
gotcha.
Where's the cool drugs on your fingers? Where's the innovative stuff? Where's turning into a naked woman and shooting tongues at him like last time? Actually, that scene was weird. Maybe don't do that again. Now we cut to Alice and Rick, and they're having a little brother-sister conversation about, not...
Kung Fu.
Yeah, just having a little brother-sister... Well, first they have a little brother-sister heart-to-heart for a little bit.
About standing up to Dad.
Yeah, standing up to Dad.
Butthole.
Before Rick then starts to try to teach her some cool Kung Fu kicks. where he goes, yeah, I don't remember what he yells, but he yells something, and he's like, now you try. And she's like, oh, I can't. And then she does, and it's awkward. And then eventually her shoe flies into the fish tank, and he makes a joke about the fish being dead. This scene's just kind of there. So, speaking of a scene that's just kind of there, but is kind of cool visual at least, we cut to Joey's mom, who finds him trapped inside the bed.
That is a cool shot.
It is a cool shot, but it's also a completely pointless shot of just, let's cut back to Joey's mom, who we've never met, for literally 2 seconds, and then never address it again. You know?
Oh, man, I so disagree that that's a pointless shot.
Okay.
Because, like, one of the things that I really like about these movies that make it distinct from other similar, like, the teen Scream movies, is that the monster kills them in a way that's visible to, like, the rest of the world, even when it's really supernatural.
I would agree on the kills where he makes it look like something that is at all explainable. This is a scene where it's like, how does his mom ever explain to anyone how her kid is inside his waterbed?
Yeah, that's like what I like. It was a similar thing in the first one, where we have more than just like the witness who's a main character. We've got other people that see like, and they're just scratching their heads over.
I guess
like it's just so evidently supernatural.
No, that's fair.
That there's no room for doubt. You know,
I think my problem with that is that they never have the adults actually really react to it. I would agree if there was ever those scenes where these adults start being like, oh crap, maybe these kids are right. And there would be like a parent who like was like, oh yeah, no, you're right. Obviously, I heard about, Johnny Depp's character who got pulled into his bed and blood spurted out. There has to be something weird going on. But everyone just kind of doesn't care or doesn't believe or any of that. And it's just like, I see what you're saying, but I feel like
normal and possible thing.
If that's what they wanted to go for in this franchise, they haven't done a good job actually conveying that it affects these parents, other than just going, my kid's there, and then we never see Joey's mom again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now we're back to school, and Kristen she's smoking at school because she's cool. Or because I guess she's troubled. She's cool and troubled, and she has a little
to nicotine.
Yeah, she has a Well, here's the thing: the only reason this scene is here is so we can have that scene later where Alice starts picking up smoking for a half a second before realizing that's not her.
Like, wait, I don't smoke.
Yeah, because
neither did Kristen in the last movie. But here we are.
Yeah, that was Jennifer's thing or whatever her name was, but she also only smoked to hit herself with the cigarette.
Oh yeah, wake herself up. Yeah, that's right.
I think her name was Jennifer. Doesn't matter. She's dead. So speaking of dead people, there's actually none in this scene. But Kristen is having this conversation with Alice, and they're having a little conversation about dreams a little bit, and Kristen gives a line to her about how we got the same luggage, and it. Really, understandably so. We're like everyone, including me, were like, "What?" Including Alice doesn't react. She's like, "Yeah, the bag is under your eyes," and she's like, "Oh." I mean, obviously, it means something to her because she brings the line back later because it's that good of a line. We have to double down on it.
You got matching luggage.
Unless that was Kristen coming through her, because this movie becomes a kind of a weird, almost possession movie, kind of, but not really. It's we'll get to that. So yeah. They're having this little conversation. This is where we first hear about the concept of the Dream Master, though. Alice references that there is some sort of rhyme about it. That's it. We don't get to find out anything about it, and you're like, oh, okay. And then we move
when
on.
in doubt, if you need a convenient plot point, just invent a almost passable nursery rhyme.
Yeah, and just kind of casually bring it up throughout the plot.
Yeah. Well, we do hear it, but they just insert Dream Master into Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep.
Yeah,
I don't think it's here. It's like later. But...
Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, sorry. I jumped the gun.
You did. You jumped the gun. At this point in the scene, all we have her saying is, I think there's a rhyme. Then later, she'll give us like one line of it and say, I remember the rhyme. And then we won't hear the rest of it. There'll be like one like beat and then a follow-up beat. And you're like, is that the rhyme? She remembered it? That's the rhyme? No, because there's a whole thing to it later, which we'll get to in the climax of the story. But let's get to the next scene, which is Kristen walking into the classroom and realizing Joey and Kincaid's desks are empty. So she starts freaking out, and Rick kind of pushes her into a wall. Not really. She kind of throws herself away from him, but it does kind of almost look like he assaulted her.
It looked bad
he
for
is
Rick.
going. He is going to jail for for this, but he did not.
Yeah, definitely.
He should have, maybe. But she throws herself into a wall, and she wakes up, and she's, there's a nurse here, and the nurse looks something a little off about him. They look almost
a little Robert Englandy.
Yeah, just a little Robert Englandy. Oh, wait. Oh, my God, it's Freddy. I mean, it was obvious because it was definitely Robert Englund. But yeah, it's Freddy. Yeah. The next shot reveals it's actually Freddy, not just... And he's halfway... And, he gives his... I'd say the worst quip of the movie because it's pointless. It's literally just a quip to the thing he's holding that doesn't mean anything other than, I'm holding it. He, asks her if she wants to draw some blood and squirts some blood at her, and then she wakes up. And it's like... Did we really need a quip for that? There was nothing there. It wasn't some clever thing to do with Kristen's character. It was just, well, Freddy's got some blood. Sure. He asked her if he wants to draw blood. Yeah, okay. Freddy did that. All right, cool, Freddy.
You're right. That is a lesser quip.
She wakes up to an actual nurse, and, the actual nurse is just a nice nurse, and then that's the end of the scene. We have Dan Jordan shows up in this next scene. He walks into this diner, which I will say, cool thing about the diner, its name is the Crave Inn, which is, a play off of Wes Craven, which, cool, fair, nice nod to the creator.
That is cool.
Yeah. Dan Jordan comes in, and he doesn't really do much. This scene's kind of just there. We find out that Deb's kind of just a jerk. She knows Alice is into him, it seems, but she just goes to well, you're off work now, and she goes to go hit on him. And then Sheila's here too, and the only reason Sheila's in this scene is so she can throw in her line of mind over matter, that can matter later. Oh. It's some of these things that they want to use later for this plot point we haven't got to yet, but I guess I can hit on it here. Alice eventually starts getting qualities from these people. And so many of these qualities are just, let's do them once here so we can call back to it later. And it's okay, cool. So yeah, she says mind over matter. I think this is also the scene where Deb gives her the
ultrasonic...
Oh, okay, no, that's okay. So this is not the scene where Deb gives her the bracelet?
The sonic bug zapper?
No.
Okay, that's later. I think this is might be the scene where we find out about this ultrasonic bug zapper. She doesn't get it from her yet. She gets it from her after she dies. But I think this is the scene where
presents it.
Yeah, I made this ultrasonic bug zapper for her because for some reason, even though Deb is a jerk to all of them, they're friends, and Sheila's cares so much about her that she wants bugs to stay away from her because she knows she's scared of them. Sheila is a great human being. It's too bad she is in this movie to be fodder.
She is here to die.
Pretty much.
And that is it.
And
also to say...
Yeah, and then Rick and Kristen, they show up, and Kristen's freaking out because, her friends are dead, and she had the dream about Freddy again. And so them and Alice have to leave right now. And so does Dan Jordan. He's also coming along because reasons. Because we've decided that he has to be important to the plot later. So he has to start occasionally... He decides to come to this weird trip to the Elm Street house that literally does nothing. It's just there. They go to the Elm Street house, the four of them, and while they're there, speaking of stuff that no one wanted by this point in the fourth movie in this franchise, we have Rick tell Dan Jordan the whole concept of this thing about how Fred Krueger used to kill people, and now he gets people in their dreams, and somehow, even though you would think at this point everyone would have at least heard the rumors of him, Dan Jordan's never heard about Fred or Freddy. And then another return from the last movie, one that no one ever asked for. Kristen's mom is back, and she's yelling.
She's the same.
Yeah, she's just as annoying, yelling "Andale" at her daughter to get into the car. She's back. Yeah. And once again, which just proves how pointless this scene was, because her mom shows up 3 minutes into it before they do anything. Maybe they were planning on going inside before her mom got there. I don't know. They just go here so we can get an exposition dump about stuff that anyone who's seen the property knew about. And if you hadn't, why are you jumping into the fourth movie? I mean, without
this is somebody's first Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
I guess.
The fourth one.
I mean, to be fair, we will find out. I guess we can talk about it here because it's not really something needs to happen later. But this movie was the highest grossing so far of the four. This movie made $50 million. Which,
well, I guess in fairness to this movie and this specific scene, technically my first, Friday the 13th movie was like the 9th. So.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 8.
Wait, the 7th, right? Yeah.
Yeah. New Nightmare?
No. I said Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. You're right. So you're right. You saw 9.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The one where he blows up.
Yeah, you are right. I guess that is... But here's the thing. You knew who Jason was. Because everyone has a basic understanding of the character before they go into it. Because these characters have been done to death in parodies. We all know the general idea of these iconic characters. Whatever. But I just thought that scene was completely pointless. Kristen's mom shows up, and she's still being a jerk. She literally drugs her daughter at the table, gives her sleeping pills. True. And Kristen goes off. Kristen gives a really good line about how you murdered me. Take that to your gosh darn therapy. She didn't say gosh darn, but I'm a PG boy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that was a fun little ooh, dang, roast your mom. You're about to literally die, which makes that even worse. Your mom is literally like, my daughter died. My daughter literally, after I thought she went to sleep in her room, must have burned herself alive for all I know, and she told me to take that to therapy. Jeez, can you imagine? Here's the thing. I don't care, because Chris's mom is literally the worst character we have
honestly
dealt.
Deserved.
Freddy Krueger may have done horrible things to children, definitely murdered at least 20 in his earthly life. I still hate this character more than him. That's how bad she is. So, she deserves this. But, jeez, that's your mom. Gosh.
Yeah.
Then we have this really cool but weird, trippy overhead shot that follows, spinny shot that follows Kristen as she's trying to call Alice before she ends up falling asleep. It's really cool. And it definitely, I feel is the best way to represent that feeling of when you're about to fall asleep, because it's really disorienting. They did it. I really respect. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I really respect the crap out of the cinematography. There are some really awesome moment like this, and there's a couple other decisions that I'm okay, yeah, no. If only the story was halfway decent. Which that's not fair. I actually do think the story is halfway decent, but I want a good movie, not a halfway decent movie. But yeah. So, and then right before she goes in, she does remember the thing about the Dream Master, which part of the Dream Master idea was, that Alice told her earlier, was, think of a happy place, because you can control your dreams. So she controls her dreams right before she goes in, and she wakes up on a beach. See, it's all happy now. And she meets this little girl whose name is also Alice. That's cool. It's Alice. She has a friend named Alice. She says that to the little girl. Little girl laughs. And it was so unsettling, because little kids laughing is... little kids bringing joyful. I don't like it. It was just, yeah, and the little girl... Terror. Yeah. The little girl is building a sandcastle, and we see what looks like a shark coming out. Looks kind of like a shark fin, but wait, no. It's changing. Oh, that's Freddy's glove. And now he's a sand shark. He's going through the sand. He pops out of the sandcastle, and it's regular Freddy.
Blows up, dude. Yeah.
And he pops through the sandcastle, and Kristen starts running away. She gets trapped into some quicksand, and she does some really weird moan acting, which she did a little bit earlier, but this is the scene where I wrote it down because it was so egregious. This actress is
pretty bad.
Yeah, this actress, apparently her thought when she was told, be afraid, she just starts moaning like crazy. And I don't get fear vibes from the way she's sounding in this scene. You can take what vibes I might be getting from the scene. You can infer it yourself. And then Freddy, there's this I feel like relatively iconic imagery about to happen here. I believe, I think I saw the meme of this before I ever saw this movie, or even
Freddy
any
putting
of these
on
movies.
Sunglasses.
Yeah, Freddy puts on those sunglasses. And you know what? I will say, this scene, that shot is pretty cool. Is it weird, and is it such a huge difference from what Freddy was, yes, in that first movie where he's like a potential child predator who just kills people, and now he's... But at this point, I'm Freddy is supposed to be this cultural icon at this point who's just cool, and you almost root for him, and you're like, yeah, you know what? put on those sunglasses. That's
Put
cool.
on those sunglasses.
Yeah.
Big bag, Freddy.
And he stomps her head into the ground, but she's not dead though, because I guess because we have to have her pull Alice into this, so he pushes her
Well,
down.
it's not just that. Like, I was wondering about that too when this happened. I thought, okay, she didn't just suffocate in the sand. And what I was expecting at this point was like, oh, this is the payoff from her setting up the tactic that you've got to dream of a happy place,
No.
right? So this is how they're going to beat him, and that ends up not really being the case.
You think this movie is
But
smart enough to do that?
at the very least, it establishes that when she does dream of a happy place, Freddy's got to get her out of it
I guess
in
that's
order
fair.
to kill her. So it's an effort for him to kill her in the happy place, but not so much of an effort for him to boot her out of the happy place. That's pretty easy. He just jams her through the floor. So I'm not saying it's well done, but that's
Yeah, maybe
that's my explanation for the prolonging of the scene.
Maybe.
But it could also just be
They had a couple of
prolonging.
different cool scenes they wanted to film.
Yeah, it's like
'Cause-
we're gonna have her die twice.
Let's send her back to where, I don't know, we're taking away from the beach. Where could we send her? Where could this franchise send someone? Well, there's one of two options. There's one of two options. No. You're not wrong, but not quite, because we have to send her to the other option first. She's in the Elm Street house for some reason. She goes through the sand into the Elm Street house. She's on the roof for a little bit before then running into the basement, and the basement turns into the boiler room. Because for some reason, starting specifically, I feel like in movie 3, I mean, technically movie 2 took place there, but movie 3 went, the Elm Street house is important, okay? You care about the Elm Street house itself, right? And I'm like, no, actually I don't. It's just a house. But all right.
It's Kristen in particular in number 3, right? Who cares about the house?
I guess, but it's just you are right. To be fair to this movie, it does seem like maybe they are doing more of Kristen being connected to that house. But I don't care about that part of her character. I don't care about this house.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's there now. Now she's in the Elm Street house, and then she's in the boiler room, and she pulls Alice into the mess because he tells her, "Hey, you should bring someone in here," and she's like, "No, I won't." And then he kind of does nothing to her, and she goes, "All right, Alice, come here." And you're like, "You were just saying how you're not going to ruin anyone else's life," and then she's immediately like, "Okay, fine, Alice, come here."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
poor Alice. Alice is stuck here now. And Freddy goes to kill Kristen by throwing her in a furnace that's full of like fiery water, so they could get a cool shot in it. It's definitely water though, not what a furnace would normally be, because he throws her
Very
in.
biblical,
Yeah,
I guess.
Lake of fire.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Type deal.
Maybe this is hell. Maybe this is a big biblical allegory. Or maybe they just went, we need some way to throw her into this fire, but make it look like it's fire, so we're going to put water there so we can safely throw this stunt woman into it. Who knows? But she's in the fiery water now, and Freddy shows off his tummy soles, because, you got to do that. You got to show off the tummy soles. Because those were established last movie. You remember? He had them in the first two movies, you just didn't notice, okay?
You didn't see him.
Except for that one time where he totally opens his stomach, doesn't have him after he'd killed people, and slices his stomach for a quick gross out scene, which shows that they literally definitely did not have this idea at all then. And literally having it later contradicts it here. But hey, whatever. Who cares? Who's paying attention to the past movies? But yeah, so she's in there, and she's like half on, like all like burnt looking, which doesn't really look burnt. She looks almost muddy, but she's supposed to be burnt.
Over.
Yeah, she's supposed to be burnt, and she talks about how, I have to give Alice my power. And then her soul comes out of her body, and it goes into Freddy, but then her powers come out of Freddy into her.
Transitive property.
Yep. Which doesn't just give her the power to pull people in dreams. We will find out pretty soon that it also gives her the power of, like, their personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On top of other things, which we'll also get to later in the movie.
Yeah. So, after the tummy soul, Alice kicks out, and she wakes up, and she finds a postcard from hell.
It's true.
There's a postcard from hell. and she
takes off her mirror.
She takes out the postcard from hell, and there is a tiny bit of her mirror visible now. Because there is a line which I didn't even think about writing when it first happened, because it felt like such a pointless line. During that heart-to-heart with Rick earlier, he asks her why she has all those pictures on the wall, on the mirror, and she's like, "Well," he's like, "You can't see yourself." She's like, "Well, I don't want to," because see, she's so timid. She doesn't even want to have to look at herself in the mirror, guys. Don't you care? See, whatever. Yeah. So now they're there. Alice, after she wakes up, she finds the postcard from hell. She runs and gets Rick, and they head off to Kristen's house, and she finds it burning. Well, not the house, but specifically Kristen in her bed, is burning. And then we cut. That's it. They're all kind of emotional for that scene. Then we cut to Alice watching old home videos, reminiscing on Kristen and videos that she's not in. It's like videos that like they mention her in it. Like, huh?
Maybe she took the video. I don't know.
Maybe there's like line about like I swear there was a line about like, oh, we wish you were here, Alice. Like she wasn't there on this trip, but she's just watching these videos, and Rick comes in, sits down with her, watches the videos a little bit. And Rick feels guilty that he didn't go over to her. He wasn't there for her. But he still, even though he feels guilty for not being there and wishing he could do something, when Alice tries to tell him that he couldn't do anything because it's Freddy, he ain't about that listening to this Freddy crap. He doesn't believe Freddy. Freddy's not real. He's not. You crazy. You crazy, Alice. You weren't there. Now here's the thing. We were wrong about it a little bit earlier because I have it written down here. Now the next scene is Sheila showing her anti-bug device to her. This is the scene where we find out this anti-bug device she made for Deb. Cool.
Yeah.
And this is in the bathroom, and while this is in the bathroom, Alice goes to smoke a cigarette and goes, "Wait, I don't smoke," showing us that she's picking up bad habits from Kristen. Ooh. I guess, whatever. So this is also where she re-gives the line about, bags under your eyes, the luggage line, which maybe that's supposed to be from the connection to Kristen, I guess. Here's the thing, this movie has this idea where it's like, that could maybe be interesting, this whole, like, connection to the dead people, if they did it well, but I don't feel like they do this concept well. Just like the daydreaming thing. It's cool on concept, but then when you just don't deliver on it, it's like, okay, cool. Let's move on.
Yeah?
Let's just move on.
Okay.
We cut to math class. It's big test math exam happening. And Alice, she falls asleep, and that jerk Alice, while she's asleep, because she doesn't understand how to handle Kristen's powers, she pulls Sheila into her dream with her. When I watched this, I thought they both just fell asleep and somehow were there together. But when I watched like a video about it, I did see that Alice does nod off first. So I do think it is a situation where she pulled poor Sheila into this murder. So when she feels guilty after this, she should be. It's all her fault.
Absolutely involuntary manslaughter here.
Yep.
Totally.
But yeah, so Sheila, her math problems, they're not making any sense. They're moving all over the paper, and now it says, "Learning is fun with Freddy." Whoa! And then Sheila's pen starts like leaking out blood all over her paper.
Yeah, because she's using a fountain pen for some reason.
Yeah, because she's a cool... Chris,
she's
cool
a nerd.
Nerds use fountain pens.
Nerd. She's got an inkwell and everything.
Yeah. After she had the blood, though, there, like a weird robot version of Freddy's hand comes out because she's a nerd. Get it? Nerd like
she
robots?
likes science.
Yeah, she likes science. Chris showing off his nerdy ink pen.
I'm a cool
for
nerd.
audio
What's up,
listeners.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Where is your moped to match it?
Here, let me give the audio. I'll just screw this cat back on.
Discord probably won't pick that up, but okay.
Probably not. Yeah, no, it's almost certainly going to silence it.
Yeah.
It tickled my ears.
Good.
So yeah, her pen turns to that. A robot hand comes out and starts to grab her, but then stops grabbing her because now we have a reveal that, oh, look up there, Freddy's the teacher, and he's cutting up the apple the teacher had with his knife fingers. Then he comes over and he goes full, hey, remember how there's a possibility of what he might have done to those kids, let's hit you over the head with the concept of it. Because Freddy's real creepy to her, and he does his little tongue thing that we talked about in the last movie a lot.
And they mic it really well.
Yeah.
And then asks if she wants to suck face.
Yep.
And then sucks the life out of her, and she deflates like a bag.
It's pretty cool. It's gross, but it's kind of cool looking. Like, it's a cool scene.
It's a cool little imagery that happens.
Then he also does... See, that's a cool... This is kind of the point where I talk about where if this is the first time it was really noticeable where they just... Freddy's got to be quippy. Because after that, you want to suck face. That's clever for the scene, at least. Then, after he kills her, he goes, "You flunked." All right, cool, Freddy.
Okay, this is what pushes you over the top.
One quip is one thing. It's just like this is the first of many where he's like, "I'm gonna throw 4 quips into the scene," and you're like, "Does Sheila's death deserve 2 quips?" Especially because I don't think either of them were that good. Like, I don't think any of these are, welcome to prime time, which I know you didn't love, but I did understand why people love that.
For the record, that was quip number 2 for that death.
You're right, but that was the one Robert Englund added that was actually good. The first one wouldn't have been good.
Oh my god, okay.
And there was also the tongue-tied one. Tongue-tied Joey, I thought that one was good. I just feel like this movie, the best one is the Wet Dream one, and even that I don't love. It's just like, okay. I just feel like the quips aren't as good.
They lay it on thick with the quips. Okay.
Yeah, and he's really... I don't think the quips are as good, and they double down on them, which draws my attention to the fact that I don't like them in this movie.
All right.
But yeah, he adds in the "you flunked," and then before we cut back to the outside of the dream, where then we cut back. I say it's supposed to be now, but I wrote before for some reason. Okay, we cut to the outside of the dream, and it looks like Sheila's dying of an asthma attack. She can't breathe. Yeah. And Alice yells that, he was here. How did none of you see him? Because apparently she didn't realize she was dreaming. Somehow. You think at this point she'd understand that, it was obviously a dream. Unless this, once again, they did a terrible job about it. And if that's the case, shame on the movie. Was this supposed to be a daydream and that's why she felt like everyone should have known? I don't know. But I would say that if they didn't literally show a shot of her with her eyes closed. So, it's just badly done. And then we cut to a little scene outside with Alice, Deb, Ricky, and good old Dan Jordan.
Dan Jordan.
Yeah. And Alice is blaming herself. Alice is blaming herself for this death because, it is her fault. She literally pulled Sheila into this for no reason.
She is now accidentally killing all her friends and absorbing their personalities and traits.
Yeah. And Dan Jordan gives a line about how, oh wow, your sister's kind of, losing it here. Or I think he said she's starting to believe that what Kristen was saying, and Rick's like, I might be too, or something like that. And he runs really awkwardly off after his sister.
With his giant trench coat flapping around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He runs so awkwardly. Yeah, he says, those stories Kristen was telling her is really getting to her, and he says, I'm not sure if they are stories.
Oh that's stupid.
That's right, yeah.
Then we cut to this other weird, unneeded, story arc for Alice, which is she's slowly revealing more of her face. So she now takes off pictures of Sheila from her mirror, and we see, her eye and cheek, not just her eye. And you're like, ooh.
Eye and mouth, whoa.
Learn the powers of her dead friends are giving her the power to not hate the way she looks. Ooh. Now Alice wears a uniform at work. She wasn't wearing a uniform before.
True.
And it's just a completely... I don't think it's even the same uniform Deb was wearing. I want to say Deb's uniform was red and this one's blue.
I think they were both white and blue.
Maybe they were.
Also, in fairness to the movie, she was getting off of work.
But she was still behind the thing,
scene.
Maybe. But she's wearing a uniform now. I wrote it down. It meant something to me that she's now wearing a uniform. And Dan Jordan shows up, and Alice starts
to pick up a pack of gum.
Yeah, and then Alice starts explaining the story to him, explaining about Freddy, but he has to leave because he's got a date at the drive-in, I guess.
With some other girl.
Yeah, some other girl who's never seen again, and he doesn't care about later when he decides he does want to be with Alice.
He also seems surprised that he's got a date at the
He's
drive-in.
like, oh yeah, I have to go.
Right, that girl that I drove here with.
Yeah.
I can't just leave her in the car.
Dang it!
Yeah.
I was trying to talk to Alice.
I forgot I'm tall, attractive Dan Jordan.
Dan Jordan. Then we cut to it's a scene with Dan Jordan talking to one of the jocks in the locker room, and the guy, is talking about how, like, first Kristen, and, he's talking about, like, why Rick would be the way he is. He's like, well, Kristen, killed herself, and now his girlfriend, or his sister killed herself, and now his
No, his sister is alive.
I misspoke, and I realized it immediately.
Last.
Yeah, his sister's going crazy now, and Dan Jordan like starts like standing up for him and like push the guy against the locker. He's like, "Hey, stop saying that." I was like, "Okay." Dan, because now at this point, going forward, Dan Jordan is a key cast member.
He just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Dan Jordan really likes Alice now for some reason.
Even though he was literally on a date with a different girl in the scene before this.
Mm-hmm. You understand.
And then he walks off with Rick. They're hanging out now. Now we're in Alice, and she's in dream class. Apparently, Chris says it was history class, but it's dream class according to me. She's learning about dreams. Apparently, I wasn't paying attention.
And that's all Austin took from the scene was that it was dream class, and didn't listen to any of the.
No, I didn't, because it didn't seem like a scene that mattered. It was boring.
The Guardians of the Gates, the good and the positive and the negative gate, which they do bring back later.
They do. And fun fact, because I haven't done a lot of those this episode, and I feel like I need to. The teacher there was Bob Shea, the producer. Fun fact. His second appearance in the franchise. First, he was a leather daddy at a bar, and now he's
leather
a
daddy
teacher. There you go.
Well, I don't know if that is a graduation. I feel like the leather daddy probably makes more money than a teacher.
Yeah, probably. Maybe hey, who said he wasn't a teacher the whole time?
Just
bartender
like
on the side. Now Rick falls asleep in the bathroom. At the same time, Alice is falling asleep in her dream class. And now Rick wakes up from his dream, and a bunch of cheerleaders, and wake up is in quotes, wakes up. He acts like he's awake, but he's waking up into the dream. And a bunch of cheerleaders randomly run into the bathroom. And then Alice is also there for like just that part, and that's it. She's never.
And they run out
again. Yeah, she runs out with the cheerleaders and out of this dream.
She doesn't want to see her brother take a dump, so it's fair.
It's fair. Well, he's not taking. He already pulled up his
rope
pants. The second the cheerleaders came in, he pulled up his pants. He's not taking a dump.
Yeah. I don't think he even moved. He just like kind of sat around the cheerleaders, just kind of covering him up with a pom pom.
Yeah.
It was like as the door opened, he like rustles his pants up because he doesn't.
He does. Okay.
Unpresentable to the women.
I remember him just like kind of taking it all in stride.
Well, he is single.
Here they are.
He is single now. His girlfriend died, so he has to be presentable. He doesn't want them to see him pooping.
I don't know that he does pull up his pants until after they leave.
I remember him pulling him up there, like as they push through, open the door.
So I remember he kind of just gets rushed while he's sitting there.
I do too, but he like pulls up his pants right as they come in. I
guess it's semantics, and it doesn't really matter
doesn't,
that much.
But we were going to discuss this for another 20 minutes because it's very important.
No. So, anyways, they leave. He gets up. And then like the bathroom's all destroyed.
The bathroom's now changed. It's now
Kristen is
graffiti
also there.
Yeah, he sees Kristen there, but she turns around and oh my gosh, it's mud Kristen. Sorry, burnt Kristen.
Yeah.
She's back and
Kristen.
Yeah. And she's there.
It's startled, and then he stumbles back into the stall.
Well, not quite. First, during that scene, he sees his reflection that he's still asleep on the toilet because that's really important. Apparently, they felt the need to draw attention to him realizing it. So I guess
that happens at the same time that
it's like the same time
he sees Crispy Kristen.
Yeah. Yes. And then he stumbles back into the stall, and now it's not a stall; it's an elevator. And Freddy's voice on the elevator asks him if he's going down, and then he kind of falls for a little while, and then we cut to a really bad scene that sucks. And fun fact, I guess, this scene was understandably so, with what you just saw there, was supposed to be this really cool dreamlike sequence where the floor of the elevator starts falling out into a void, and that was what was supposed to kill him, which is a real fear people have and makes sense. Instead, they just use this elevator to get to this other scene because they ran out of money, and they had to shoot this at the end because they had already shot his funeral scene, so they had to kill him. He could have lived if they had, but they had already shot the funeral scene, so they had to kill him some way. So they kill him with weird, invisible Freddy, because I guess Robert Englund was already gone, so they couldn't even get him to do like a fight scene with the kid. So he just fights the air for a while, gets his butt kicked.
Not very scary.
Yeah, by literally no one for a while. Then he starts to pick up a fight a little bit, and is able to kick the glove off of him. And at this point, Freddy's giving some like classic, like not classic, but like generic like kung fu movie
banter
quips throughout this whole scene, like find your balance and stuff like that. Like he gives a lot of those kind of lines. The glove's kicked off, and then the glove lunges at Rick, killing him. While Freddy says, "Sayonara, Rick-san."
Yeah.
This scene,
Very, very cool.
it's pretty bad. I will
Also,
say,
fun fact: if you look at the background, like the walls of where the fight takes place, so it's all like very traditional Japanese aesthetic. But if you look at the walls, it's like a children's room, like clouds painted onto a sky blue wall.
yeah, it's so
It
bad.
looks like
it's
a
so,
dentist office.
It's
that
so
they just...
cheaply done. Like it's so they literally they ran out of money, so they just went, I don't know, let's hang up some Japanese looking things and do a kung fu scene, because we did a step, which really baffles me that they had that whole kung fu idea for him before this, that they was just gonna be there. I guess she was going to pick up his kung fu powers, and it was going to be like everything else in the movie where it's just shown once and then we don't care about it. But they decided last minute, because they had to make that be part of his death. Like, it's bad. This scene sucks. I am crapping on it because it does suck. I will say I don't think I hated it as much as I feel like the internet talks about this being like one of the lowest points in like the history of the franchise. And I don't know if I go that far. I don't like it, but it's... People really hate this scene and talk about like, so, and I get it. I do get it, but I don't agree, if that makes sense. Like, I completely understand if that is your take, because this is crap. And it's like the only time Freddy ever kills someone where he's not there. So like, because he's not there. He's literally not in the scene. His glove is in this scene. We just have a guy for way too long too. This scene drags of him just fighting nothing.
Mm-hmm. He kicks off the glove at one point, and then Freddy picks up the glove, I guess, and throws it at him, and then he dies.
That, Chris.
And then that's it. And now we're out of the dream.
We are.
And Alice is like, my brother's dead.
Yeah. Alice screams herself awake, and while doing that, she also destroys all the windows.
And no one ever talks about it.
No. They just break. And now we're at Rick's funeral. Because, like we mentioned, they had to film it. They already filmed this scene, so we had to kill Rick. So now we're at his funeral, and gosh, is this maybe in my opinion, the worst scene in the movie.
What?
Rick's acting in this scene.
Hello, baby!
Oh, it was such bad delivery and awkward and just pointless. That's the other thing. This scene was literally pointless. He just shows up. I guess it's Freddy there. So it's Freddy pretending to him, trying to get in her head. She's like, it doesn't work. But it just feels like I didn't like it. I think maybe here's the thing. Maybe I wouldn't have hated the scene as much and not like been saying how I think it's pointless if I already didn't hate the scene the second it started. I thought Rick for some reason overacted badly throughout this scene more than he had ever done in any other scene. Like, he was never the best actor in this movie, but he just gets awkward. And I guess maybe it's that actor didn't know how to pretend to be Freddy being him. Fine. That is a hard thing to do. Not everyone can do that. I get that. But I did not like this scene at all.
I do think it's meant to be Freddy clownishness.
I guess.
It reminded me of the scene from the TV, made-for-TV version of It, where they find the guy's head in the fridge. I don't know if you'll see that one, and he's like joking at him. And it's like supposed to be unsettling and clowny, and that's what I thought. I mean,
I mean, maybe that was the intention, but it just
Even
didn't come
being too
across as
generous.
it didn't come across as unsettling. It came across as bad acting to me. It
Came
was
across that way, then that is the movie's fault. So, yeah.
But yeah, then she's done with that scene because it's just kind of there. You know, Freddy doesn't do his. I guess maybe the point of the scene is to show that she's ready to start standing up against Freddy, and I guess this is another time where she's daydreaming officially because she's standing the whole time wearing her sunglasses. So I guess she's daydreaming during the scene. So I guess this is the big climax of the daydream plotline.
Point.
She talks to Freddy shortly.
Yeah. She's never in danger here, though, because Freddy does not try to do anything to her in this scene. And then she wakes up and she tells, Dan Jordan, Dan Jordan her plan, kind of starts telling him her plan, tells, Dan Jordan to meet her at a place, and Deb throws out her, a very important line of, I don't work out so many hours a day to get taken out by some, what was the word? Some killer or something like that. But she used some term for a real killer, and of course Alice goes, well, he's not that. Because, he's a mystical demon.
A night stalker.
Night stalker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Deb worked out a lot.
Video game Night Stalker was out.
Yeah. It's also, to be fair, I probably has less of a reference to the video game and more so the real California serial killer, the Night Stalker.
That's probably the video game.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. It's probably more of a reference.
To the video game? Yeah,
sure.
I think so.
Sure. Well, I'll let you have this. Now Alice reveals more of her mirror and then messes around with Rick's nunchucks because now she has Rick's ninja skills.
Mm-hmm.
Then she goes to start to leave, but Alice's dad doesn't want to let her leave because, he already lost his son and, she's all they have. And, this is that moment I kind of hinted at earlier where, I really kind of, go oh, okay, her dad seems to, actually care about her in this scene, which, with how he's been presented so far, is weird. And I will say, I feel like it's meant to be almost a redemption arc, but isn't earned at all because he's shown no growth up until this point. He just now is caring about his daughter.
I'll tell you another deficiency. There is a big pregnant pause after he delivers a line where she's like, you don't know what's going on. He says, I know very well what you children are going through. And then it's clear that he doesn't know. And that's never at all that, Freddy doesn't come with the conversation. Mm-hmm. We think, is he another Elm Street parent? Is that why she's involved? Is this the whole point of Alice becoming the center of the story? Nope.
No.
Her dad was in no way involved with Freddy's killing. Or at least not that it was indicated.
No.
And that was just a line of him trying to. It's an empty line.
Yeah.
An empty line that is a ghost staircase. It just leads up to nowhere.
Yeah. Now we cut to Dan Jordan, and he is just waiting at the diner for Alice because she's not showing up because of her dad not letting her leave yet. So then we cut to Deb. She's getting prepped to work out. Then we cut to Alice, who is just decides Sorry, she sneaks out to go meet up with Dan Jordan. But before she gets there, she realizes, hey, crap, Reefer Madness is playing at the local cinema. I need to go see Reefer Madness instead. So she goes on into Reefer Madness, which, once again, fun fact, the reason most likely that they played Reefer Madness is one, because I think even by this point it was already public domain, but also because of it being public domain, that was actually one of the first things that New Line Cinema ever did. Was they were a distributor for Reefer Madness because they realized that they could legally just make DVDs of it and no one could stop them. So before they did the Nightmare on Elm Street, which is kind of what made them a studio that mattered, the first thing they did was really be a distributor for Reefer Madness. I believe the story is out of a lot of times it was out of Rob Shea's trunk of his car, he'd have DVDs. That's how lowly they started. But
he was a bootlegger, is
pretty
what you're
much
telling me.
But
Reefer Madness,
but you see, it wasn't bootlegging because Reefer Madness was public domain and completely legal to make. So it was this weird legal step above bootlegging.
Nice.
But yeah, so she's in the theater. She's watching Reefer Madness, and but then now it's not Reefer Madness, and it's her diner, and it's all
in.
boarded up and gross, and it's that movie.
Really windy.
Yeah, and Alice already saw that movie, so she just says, I don't care, and she lets her soda and her popcorn fly into the TV. No. They get pulled by this weird wind that then starts pulling her. First pulls off one of her shoes, and then eventually pulls her into the movie in a kind of cool transition scene of her, like, falling and then turning into 2D into the scene. Like, once again, it was a cool...
Like a Wizard of Oz type
Yeah, it was
transition.
like really cool cinematography / effects in this scene. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's a really cool effect.
That was pretty sick.
So now she walks around after she gets in there. The crowd cheers for her being in there, and then eventually the curtains close, and she's inside. And
It is also revealed that all of the crowd is her dead friends.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for the movie, I guess. Good, cool. Her friends are dead, and now she is there, and she's walking around the band diner, and then a nice little old waitress, says like welcomes her in and asks for her order. But wait, that's Alice as an old lady talking about how she never was able to get married and leave the diner, which I guess is
because earlier in the movie she said, "My greatest fear is that I'd be waiting tables for the rest of my life."
So yeah,
so they had to bring it back at some point in the movie.
Sure, yeah, I guess they did. Now Freddy shows up and he says that if the food doesn't kill you, the service will, which is his first of, I believe, 4 quips in this scene.
Yeah.
Also got the quip
I
count
do.
going.
It might actually only be 3. But
few.
then she brings over some pizza, and we get a shot of the pizza, and we find out it's actually soul pizza. And I believe
it's meatball and souls.
Meatball and souls, yes. Well, the souls are in the meatballs. And he first goes to pick off one of the meatballs, picks it up, and it's Joey's face, apparently. You can barely tell, but apparently that's Joey's face. We only know it's Joey's face because he goes, Joey, you little meatball. Because that's the level of quips in this movie, is he literally... Like, yes, I know calling someone a meatball is a term, but, like, Joey's character wasn't a meatball. Like, no one else ever called him a meatball. He's just a meatball now because he's literally a meatball.
Because he was a literal meatball.
And then here's the thing.
Cool.
This is the third quip we're now going to get to after he picks up the meatball and bites into it. He said, or right before he bites into it, he goes, I love soul food. That's actually a funny quip. But it's the third quip in this scene.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So he eats Joey's meatball soul, I guess.
Effectively disgusting.
And then, we cut away, and we're back to Deb, and she's doing some lifts.
We learn that the jock Deb bench presses 35 pounds. Which is a funny revelation.
Her bar and then, 5-pound weights on either side of the bar.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I don't work out for nothing. And is also, barely lifting anything more than just the bar itself.
But also, you guys are forgetting the fact that her form is so terrible, that's all she could lift without hurting herself.
Yeah, her hands are, on the very inside of the bar. She's just eh.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is now a analyzation of poor form in workouts.
See, it isn't, because now we're cutting back to Alice, and she's meeting up with Dan Jordan, and they drive off to go help Deb. And then they start driving off. Alice gets out of the car and run around the house to go get Deb. But wait, now she's back at the diner running into the car, and we're seeing this scene again.
Literally just replayed.
Yeah.
Not reacted.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no,
Played.
but sure. But I actually really love this scene because it really has I love this dream quality. That moment where they don't realize they're repeating it yet. I feel like I've definitely had similar nightmares and stuff. That's a very traditional nightmare fear, kind of like the can't run while you're moving, feel like you're stuck from the last movie. I think this was actually really, I love and they do slowly realize that they're in a time loop.
They cut back and forth between Deb and the looping scene.
Yeah. We cut back, first there's our next cut, we cut back to Deb. And Freddy's there, and he's doing some reverse spotting where he's trying to, push it down on her. And he snaps her arms as he says, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
And it's all right. That's cool. Her arms are all, really, it's a really cool, visual effect of her arms snapped. This movie, that is one thing so far, at least, about this franchise is they've done some, no matter how the quality of the movie has been at different points in it, you cannot take anything away from their visual effects. They have done such amazing visual effect work. Then we're back to the time loop. Then we're back to, which I think this is the third time it's played with no change. Like I think it's the next time is the first time we actually have anyone notice that they're in it. Because now we cut back to Freddy, who starts turning Deb into a bug. Her arms start like becoming bug
her
arms.
Arms pop off.
Yeah.
And then little cockroach legs grow out of them.
Dude, are we ever going to review The Fly? Because we should.
Oh, we will.
And,
It's on the schedule.
absolutely.
I don't know how far out it is, but it is on the plan at some point. I know for sure it is there. We're also like going to watch Videodrome the week before.
Yeah, that is like the definition of body horror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those two movies especially. Like I know Videodrome doesn't get as much credit, but that's like the first movie Cronenberg like really went Cronenbergy.
Cronenbergy.
But yeah,
Cronenbergish.
now
But this is like a great value version of that.
That's not fair. Whoa, he's like Cronenberg is like high fashion. This is like, still decent. This is above great value. Whoa. I'm taking offense for this movie. I think this movie did a really decent job with their bug effects. I'll give you, it's not Cronenberg. No one can be Cronenberg except for, Cronenberg. But then we're back to time loop, and this is the first time that Dan Jordan kind of realizes, wait a second, I've seen this before. Now we cut back to Deb, who is she's trapped and she's running down this corridor, and it's got this cool like perspective thing. I think it might be the beginning of her being in this roach trap. We get it confirmed though when she gets stuck on this like the sticky part of it, and she gets her face ripped off as she like comes out.
That is a super cool effect.
Yeah, and she gets stuck there, and it's like so cool as she's becoming a giant cockroach here. Then we cut back to a now fully aware of the time loop Alice and Dan Jordan. Then back to Freddy, who is telling Deb, you can check in, but you can't check out. And then, as he said that, we get the reveal that the specific trap he's using is a real brand of traps called the Roach Motel. So that's why he gave his little, song reference to, checking in and not checking out, as he crushes it, and we see a bunch of goo fly out as she is now dead.
Roach Motel, California.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah. If you weren't sure she was dead, don't worry. We immediately cut to Alice going, I have collected her now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But
now she has the strength of an above-average female.
And I think I saw someone like on one of the videos I watched about this speculate, or maybe they read it somewhere, that she also this next like little part of the scene might be because she got the anger issues of Deb, and that's why she drives into Freddy without any thought here. Take that for what you will. It's possible.
Not bad.
Yeah, maybe that's why she drives into Freddy, but guess what? It doesn't hurt Freddy at all. It just destroys the truck.
He's like a telephone pole.
Yeah. And it
the car wraps around him.
Alice is completely fine, but Dan Jordan is not in good condition. He is messed up.
Lacerations to the neck, baby.
Yeah. As well as I think some stuff to the stomach too, as we find out a little bit later. But then apparently this is all a dream, but not though, because now they're picked up by actual paramedics from this truck crash they actually had.
Yeah. It is curious.
Maybe that's the daydream. See? They daydream, see? This is a daydream the whole time, okay? Accept it. Deal with it.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure.
They try to sedate Dan Jordan and then in the ambulance, and Alice isn't having it.
She's like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, what's wrong with you? She's like, he's allergic. He's like, why didn't you just say so? Which is like completely fair.
Yeah,
he's
very
like, okay.
reasonable.
Yeah. He freaks out, understandably so, when she like kicks it out of his hand. But then once she explains it, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, fine.
All right.
Now we cut to the hospital, and we find out that he needs surgery. He's being rushed off surgery, and she's like, oh no, that means he's gonna be dead. So she leaves and she drives off. She drives home from the hospital, as we have shots of Dan Jordan being prepped for surgery. Then we cut to Alice, who is putting on her friend's clothes montage. She's also taking off all the pictures in this montage as well, so we can see the true her, which apparently the true her is her friends, not her.
Yeah, the true her is the amalgamation of all of her friends' dead.
If you want to be comfortable in your own skin, first you have to absorb qualities from your friend and change yourself.
From your dead
Yes.
friends. Yeah.
It's weird.
Now we cut back to Dan Jordan, who realizes that he's asleep because that's Freddy. He's the doctor, and Freddy says, "Well, it's not Dr. Seuss," which Dr. Seuss doesn't have an MD. Silly Freddy, he wouldn't be here.
I don't believe that man has ever been to medical school.
So now Alice, I guess she's asleep now, or she's using her dream power to go into the dream without being asleep yet. But she jumps through her mirror into the little wall panel on the OR where they put X-rays. I don't know what the name for that is, but that she comes through that thing.
Yeah.
The X-ray display thing. I'm sure there is a technical term that I do not know.
It's that.
But yeah, is it? Okay, cool. So after she goes through that, Alice and Dan Jordan, they kind of run through into one of those fun house spinning room things. And Freddy's at the other end, and he starts spinning it, and they kind of stumble around before falling into the back of this, which does have the whole shot. You do notice that at the back of it there is this stained glass that they now pop through into a cathedral because.
Whoa.
Did I miss something?
We're gonna just ignore the quip that
I didn't write down this quip, so yes, I was
throws out in the spinning tunnel thing.
What did he say?
Take you guys out for a spin.
Yeah.
And it's
So now they fall through into the cathedral, like I said. I'm glad we wasted 2 minutes to talk about that. That clip was worth it.
I'm glad. We have to talk about his terrible, awful clips.
Yeah. Now we're in the cathedral, and Dan Jordan is starting to bleed. He's like, "Oh no, I'm bleeding!" And we get a shot in the real world of him hemorrhaging out, which is crazy. And then he starts disappearing, fading. And you're like, "Oh crap, he's dying in the real world." Because as they always say from the Freddy movies, if you die in the real world, you die in your dream.
I mean, that's just kind of
that's how it works. But
understood.
I know. Yeah. But yeah, but it's actually he's not dead. He's they saved him. They went immediately from him hemorrhaging out to pulling him out of being put under. I don't think that's how quickly you do that. I don't think you go from literally bleeding out to be like he's ready to come off of the medicine.
Right. He's fine now.
Immediately pull him out. So he's now in the real world. So we're down to our final girl, Alice. She is all alone. And there's some creepy choir kids, and they're singing the Freddy song. And then Freddy gives, it's this era of Freddy, so he is going to quip literally every time you see him. So he walks into the door, and I will say this one is fine. I don't mind this one. It just feels forced and random and out of nowhere. It's a funny line, but he says, "Welcome to Wonderland, Alice." Get it? Because she's Alice.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for them to kind of nod to that.
I guess that's fair.
She's Alice for a reason.
Because Alice in Wonderland, when all her friends die, she gets their powers. That I missed that. They cut that from the Disney version.
Her friends are those little mushrooms that talk.
Oh, the ones she eats to gain their. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, so now after she welcomes her, Kristen. She starts doing, I guess, I don't know if she got this from her brother or from Kristen, but she starts doing a lot of flips.
Oh, she definitely got it from Kristen.
That's Kristen's supreme power.
That is Kristen's power. Yeah. What do you do, Kristen?
Power.
Flip.
Gymnastics.
But she also does use her brother's power because she starts doing a bunch of, I'm going to call them ninja kicks because they don't do any explanation of what actual martial arts they're supposed to be. They don't do a good job displaying any real martial arts. So we're just going to call them ninja kicks. And Freddy just kind of laughs it off and doesn't care. Until he kind of does. It's weird. It ends up not actually hurting him that much. But, it's not hurting him at all. Then she does a cool flip over him. And then for, 30 seconds to a minute, her kicks, he actually starts, reacting to her kicks like they're hurting him. So I guess maybe she just had to start believing it. I don't know. Her kicks start actually working for a little bit, but then he disappears. And he's behind her. And he's the guardian of the negative gate, is what I wrote, because that's when Chris told me the part I missed. So apparently he's the guardian of the negative gate. and she's the guardian of the positive kid. Who cares? This movie doesn't deserve credit for that part of the story.
This thing they just kind of like cut and pasted out of the Aeneid.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Then she grabs her, she pulls out her handy dandy bug zapper thing, which I think was supposed to just send a sound wave, the way it was explained earlier. But now when she pulls a wire out of a random, like, statue, I swear it was, a pillar? She pulls this giant...
It was a pillar that she punched into and then pulled out a big wire from.
This pillar in this old cathedral has this giant wire in it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a dream, so fine, sure, fair, I guess it's possible. But yeah, she stabs it into that, which I guess superpowers it, and she shoots a giant hole into Freddy's gut. But then he literally just goes,
heart,
nah,
in his lower chest.
Yeah. And he just goes, nah, and undoes it. And says, I'm eternal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am eternal.
Yeah. You're right. He does kind of switch back more to like a Nightmare 1 scary voice for this scene. Even though he opens it with his classic, his new era, quippiness. Now he's getting kind of serious with her. Because I guess that tickled a little bit, so he didn't like it. He was able to immediately undo it, but he's like, oh crap, you're trying. I can't let you do this.
I'm about to hit you with the big voice.
Then the kids show up. Their kids are still there, and they're singing the Dream Master song, and they're giving her the rest of it. And as she looks up at them, this is the point where I talk about how this is maybe they're supposed to be an allegory for God, because one of the people who I don't remember exactly what his role was. I watched a documentary about it. He was one of the people who was involved in making the movie. Says that he was trying to reference the statue called the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, which is this art piece about this woman who saw the face of God, and that's what the shot of her looking up at them was supposed to allude to that, and that's why they're giving her this good message and this good, how the good will beat the evil thing. It's not well done at all, but I think maybe those kids are a representation of God. At least in this scene. To be fair, it might only be this scene ever. But now she knows the rest of the rhyme, which, gosh darn it, ends with talking about how the way to beat him is to show him his reflection. Which... Yep. Is such a flaw. One, it's lame. Two, it's so flawed because he's seen it. He's seen his reflection multiple other times in the series. But I guess you have to say the rhyme with the reflection. It's not just the reflection, or it's the power of those god kids gave her the power for the reflection to hurt him. I don't know. It's stupid. It's a lame way to get here to kill Freddy for this movie.
Well, it's because she's the Dream Master.
Yeah, she's the Dream Master, so she can kill Freddy. I will say, as lame as that was, I do think the next scene we get is pretty awesome. The scene
that follows is pretty sick.
We go in through his mouth now, after he starts freaking out from that. We go into his mouth and we start going into I think probably that same spinny tunnel from earlier, but now decorated differently, with bodies flailing around in it that are representing his souls. And then we cut back to outside after that, and they're starting to rip themselves out of him. And they're pulling him and tying him to this wall,
hitting him down.
Yeah, it's really well done. And then there's a random, of course, just a random naked woman in his chest, because more nudity for the sake of nudity, I guess.
Boobs pressed up against the skin.
Yeah, it just kind of rears up and then goes back down.
Yeah, apparently that I don't remember the name.
Cresting dolphin.
I don't remember the name of the actress, but apparently the actress who plays the boobs is some other famous, not famous, but somewhat famous horror movie girl who takes her boobs out in a lot of movies. She's in Silent Night, Deadly Night, and a bunch of other stuff. But so they got her to be a completely unrecognizable set of soul boobs in his chest.
Famous pair of soul boobs.
Yep. And then now his head pops open and all the souls escape. And they fly off, and he's left just kind of there. And I think she says one last line to him that I don't remember what it was, as she kicks him. Kicks his glove, and then she walks out the open door, which is now has a giant bright light coming through it, and she walks through the light to outside. And now we're in another scene with her and Dan Jordan. And they're at a wishing fountain. And he asked her they had a little conversation about how, he's having no trouble sleeping yet. And she's like, I'm able to sleep, but I'm still having a little bit of trouble. And then after he gets her to throw as she's about to throw her coin into the fountain, she sees Freddy's reflection. But then the coin hits it, and it dissipates, and he's gone. And I guess he's not there. But also, it wouldn't be a Nightmare on Elm Street movie there if we didn't at least tease the idea of him being there, so there could be a sequel. But yeah,
because there is a sequel, two of them.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
A third, if non-canonically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alice walks off with Dan Jordan all happy.
This is an interesting ending compared to the others. Because it's not the fake ending.
Yeah, we don't get a psych ending.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's not like, the psych endings are also marked by like this overt contentment and happiness with each character. And he's like, "You're sleeping all right?" She's like, "Not really."
Yeah.
So there's a sense of realism that assures us, they're like, this is actually a happy ending? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the first one we get in this franchise.
But yeah, so that's this movie, and I guess it's now. Oh, excuse me. Tried to burp, but it didn't even come out right. That was awkward. But yeah, let's talk about how we thought about it. I'll go first. I don't love this movie. I think it's definitely, there are fun moments, but it is definitely a very flawed movie, especially when you get to that script and the writing and like how we get from point A to point B sometimes, which is I don't know if I say a good movie. There is a reason for that, at least partially. This movie was only had like a very basic script ready to go when the writers' strike happened, and so they weren't able to get new writers in to fix up the script. They just kind of had to go with it. I will say New Line was also just trying to rush this through because they hadn't even got their director on board until after they had already started filming stuff. Like, they had already started filming scenes without a director. They wanted to actually get the director of Jason Lives. They tried to get him, but he was like, "Hey, I want full creative control like I had for Jason Lives." And they were like, "See, we can't give you full creative control because we already started shooting the movie." And he's like, "Without a director?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. No." So,
without a director?
Yeah. So he was out. The director they did get had like only ever done two other movies. One was like a foreign film because he's from Sweden, and the other one was like this one other like horror movie that like wasn't like huge, but like he made it. He did it. And so yeah, he just kind of came in. He had a lot of ideas for cool dreams. Like all the dream sequences, they're really well done and cool, and that's about all he had. And he made it work. Which, I guess respect. They tried their darndest with literally like almost no script. And it worked because this movie made $50 million and was relatively enjoyed and like kind of changed the last movie started it, but this movie kind of cemented that Freddy is an icon now. Like around this time is like when like the merch boom starts happening and like they have like him on a rap song with like, I don't remember the name of the band, but he does like a rap song. He also like, he's like, they're making kids pajamas for Freddy Krueger. Like this movie is that like, and if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Like this is the movie that, like, how do you get more like him being that character? Like the icon, like this with the glasses scene, like feels like so indicative. Like that's where Freddy is now. He's just a cool dude, which was what the director wanted. He wanted
dude.
Yeah, he wanted to make him like James Bond, I think is his quote. He wanted him to be cool like James Bond, and I don't know if it worked, but here we are, and I don't hate this movie. It's definitely better than the worst movies I've seen, but it's definitely worse than the good ones I've seen. So there's some fun moments, but overall, there's some definite, like, serious issues with the plot. Like, how we got Freddy back into this world really irritated me, and how we got him out of this world really irritated me. And, like, it's kind of important for the way they were telling the story for those things to land, and they don't. And a lot of the stuff in the middle also didn't land and didn't make any sense. They just kind of threw it at a wall. The dreams were cool, and that, I guess, is what this movie is mostly about. But there's got to be some substance tying those together. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean... I found this movie to be entertaining. In a way that you find a lot of bad movies entertaining. But, like, it had really solid visual effects of, like, not a B movie, but all of the writing and acting of a B movie. A lot of the lines didn't make sense. And, like Austin was talking about, a lot of the major plot points, and the drivers of the plot were, like, not even a one-cylinder engine. A dog pissed fire. And that is what brought Freddy back to life. I really just want to say that out loud so that everyone can be on the same page. Our viewers can just soak that in like Freddy's grave soaked in the fiery dog piss. And that's how we got to where we are.
And then we killed him with his reflection that he literally, like, was in a room of mirrors in the last movie. There were scenes of him and Jesse looking at each other in mirrors in the movie before that. Like, he is all about, like, mirrors have been used in visuals since, like, I think there were some mirrors in the first movie even. But either way, like, there's a lot of mirrors, and now that's his weakness?
Yeah, and I think, that scene... can pretty much aptly describe how I feel about this movie. It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't try to take itself seriously, and it has its own merit for that, but also in parts tries to take itself seriously, and definitely fails in doing so. Is it entertaining? Yes. Does it make any sense at all? No. And I guess that's okay. But I personally don't love it. Just like being pissed on by fiery dog piss. Don't love it.
But it's kind of entertaining.
Unpleasant. Yeah.
Just it's not for me.
That's a good assessment. I think this movie picked up speed as it progressed. There's a lot to collect, and we've dwelt a lot on its flaws.
Yes, there's a lot of things to collect from the dead bodies of your friends, mostly ours.
Yes.
Honestly, mostly bad traits, actually, and some clothing. And some dialogue, and that's about it.
And it's very cheap. That part's very cheap, and anyway, I'll get to that. Like y'all pointed out, the lines that are meant to be, like, the script isn't built around the important parts. Those jut out like huge cracks in the sidewalks. We just kind of trip over them and stumble on, like, oh, right, Sonic Boom for bugs. Remember that, And and there's that. And this is just, like, the obstacle that the makers of the movie in the real world take on themselves when they decide they're going to make a sequel and try to wrap up the previous movie well. So we've got Kincaid saying, like, how can he come back? We defeated him so soundly in the last movie, and it was such a satisfying and good ending. How could he come back now? That's a question that's never answered. And as we were discussing, I thought, do I want it to be answered? Do I want some kind of, like, long midichlorian explanation for, like, well, that water wasn't really holy because, I don't know. I don't know which would be less satisfying. Like, some tacked on answer or the total lack of explanation of what we have now. I don't know, so I'll leave that alone. I think the chance for redeeming the movie would have been what it seems like they were trying to do with Alice, which is the closest thing to get to a point in the movie where we start out with Kristen in her dream seeing this little girl, and she says, "What's your name?" And she just laughs, and that's a very, like, they draw a lot of attention to that. And so I thought, what's going on there? Then the same thing is repeated again. We learned that little girl is Alice. Then Alice sees Alice in the dream again, but as an elderly waitress, and it's already been explicitly established that that's an expression of her greatest fear, right? And all throughout, we're getting Alice gradually more and more acclimated to herself, figuring out what herself is, just figuring herself out, which is very teenagery, That seems like a classic teenage conflict, self-discovery, and I can dig it, like if they're trying to make it about that. But like Austin pointed out, it tapers to a very strange point where the key to her self-discovery is just cheaply borrowing, very superficial traits and like bracelet charms or something from her other friends, and just kind of clothing herself with those. And I can't see a way that it transcends past that and anything deeper. So, in that sense, I think it makes an attempt that is worthwhile, but fails. So, but it does get more exciting. The effects are really good. I really liked the soul meatballs. I thought that was really like when he stabbed it. There's like a little bit of juice that spurted out. I'm like, oh, that was a brain. That was cool. So, those have always delivered, have remained consistent. Those are the star of the show, I think.
Yeah, for sure. This has been Horror Boys episode whatever, where we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Next week we will be back exclusively on the Horror Boys channel. So if you've watched through to this point and haven't subscribed to Horror Boys, please go subscribe to Horror Boys, because it will not be on Downtown Kentucky next week. This is the last episode ever on that channel. Also, the whole back catalog is already over there, so you can, if you only care about Horror Boys, just go over there. I get it. If you don't want to watch us play video games, I understand. So yeah, we'll be back next week with Part 5, The Dream Child. Ooh, what could that mean? Probably nothing interesting.
A child in a dream. I don't know.
Let's find out next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.